Hi, in this video we're going to be talking about how to write an equation given a problem situation. Okay, so the first thing that we need to talk about is a definition, and the definition that we need to write is the one for variable expressions. Okay, and variable expressions is really easy to write. It's exactly what it says. A variable expression is an expression with, or let's not say with, let's say that contains a variable. And remember what a variable is. A variable is a letter that stands for a number. For example, x could be equal to 3, or x could equal to 4, or x could equal to 35. Okay? X could equal to any number, that's why it's called a variable, because it varies in value. Okay? So now let's talk about these other words that we have here in your notes. It says to place each expression in the correct category. So each one of these expressions we're going to put into add, subtract, multiply, or divide. And we're going to do this so that whenever we make the equations, or whenever we read the problems, we're going to be writing an equation. So we're going to have to use some of these words to let us know what they mean. Do they mean add? Do they mean subtract, multiply, or divide? Okay, so we're going to do that right now. Let's see if I can get a zoomed in window here where I can see all of these. Well, I can see most of them right there. Okay, let's try that. So we're going to ask about the word combine. Combine means to add. So combine would go right here. Plus, that's also add. Okay, so this is plus and this is add. Minus, well, that's the subtraction symbol, right? So if the word problem says minus, we're going to be subtracting. Join, putting two things together, that's adding. Sum, well, let's go ahead and put all these little marks and then we'll put them all in here, okay? So sum, that's addition. Less, that's subtraction. Squared, oh, that's squared. Squared is when you have something like this. 4 squared, that means 4 times 4. So that's what squared means. So that means we're going to be multiplying. So this one goes with multiplication. Decrease, that's going less in value, that's taken away, so that's subtraction. Per, so for example 60 miles per hour, that means division. Per 1 hour, 60 miles divided by 1 hour. Take away, well, that's an easy one, that's subtraction. Times, that's another easy one, that means multiplication. Quotient, that's the answer to a division. Product, that's the answer to a multiplication. All together means you're putting things together, so that means we're going to add. Half, that means we're going to be dividing by 2. Cubed, that's kind of like square, but instead of that 2 as the exponent, cubed is the same thing as 4 to the third power, 4 cubed. So that means 4 times 4 times 4. So we're still multiplying. So this is going to be multiplication, and this is the example for cubed. More than, that means we're going to add something to it because it's more than. Change, change is when you subtract something, like if you go to the store and you want to know how much change you get, you have to subtract the amount that you're going to pay minus the amount of money you give the cashier. So that's going to be a subtraction. Equal sections, if you're going to be getting equal sections, say I have a candy bar and I need to split it into 5 students so I can share with them. Well, I need to give equal sections, so I need to divide it into equal sections. So that's going to be division. Difference, that means subtraction, that's the answer to a subtraction. Deposit, that's putting money into an account, that's a good thing, so we're adding money into our account, that's good. Withdraw, that's to take out money, we're probably going to spend it, so that's not good. Okay, and third, Same thing as half, dividing by 3 in this case because it says third. And increase, that means to add. So that's where all those words belong. So now we can put them all in here. So we left off in join. So we have combine and plus and minus and join. Now sum also goes right here. Less square, we said that was means multiplication. So squared goes here. Decrease, that means subtraction. Per, that means division. So we're going to put per right here. Take away, that means subtraction. Let's see, times, that means multiplication. So let's see, we got that one, that one, that one. And quotient, that's the answer to a division, remember? Product, that's multiplication, that's the answer to a multiplication. All together, that's addition. Half, that's dividing by 2. Cubed, that's multiplication, that's 4 times 4 times 4, that's to the third power. So that's going to be here multiplied. Okay, and I'm going to put an example here. I'm going to put x cubed or x squared for squared, and for cubed it would be x to the third power. So just a little example to remind you what those two mean. More than, that's addition. Change, that's minus. Remember when you get change from the cashier at the store? Equal sections, you were dividing. Difference, that's to subtract. That's the answer to a division. Deposit, that's to put money into an account, so that's a good thing. So we're going to be adding money into our account. Withdraw, that's to take money out of the account. Third, I mean, that's dividing by 2. So it goes here for division. And increase, that means addition. We're going to be making something bigger, so we need to add something to it. So that's all those words into this chart. So far, so good, hopefully. And if you didn't have enough time to write those down, just make sure you rewind and press pause so you can write those down. Now, on the other side of your notes for today, we have give an equation for the following situation. We have to write an equation. It says Peter drove a total of 110 miles this week. And here's an important part. We need to know the total. And the total is 110 miles. He drove 20 miles more, that's a key word, more. It means we're going to add something. More this week than he drove last week. Now we also know that this week is the number of m. M is the number of miles that Peter drove this week, and we need to find m. So we need to formulate a question to solve this problem. So what we're going to have to do first is write an equal sign because we're writing an equation. Okay, so make sure that you understand that the word equation, that means we need an equal sign. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to write my equal sign. And on one side of the equal sign, I'm going to have all the letters, the variables, and the numbers that I'm going to add to the variable or subtract or multiply or divide. And on the other side, I'm going to have the total. Okay, so make sure you understand that. On the one side is going to be the total all by itself. And because here they tell me that the total is 110 miles, I'm going to put 110 right there. Now on the other side, I'm going to put everything else. So everything else tells me that 20 miles more this week than last week, right? And this week he drove m number of miles. So I think they have a little typo here. It should say he drove 20 miles more this week than last week. But m is the number of miles he drove this week, right? So let's see. We can say that this should say m is the number of miles Okay, I'm a little confused here myself because the way they worded this problem. So let's figure something out right quick. If I put 20 miles plus m, that's the number of miles this week plus 20 more, right? And that's what he drove last week. This week he drove 20 miles more this week than he drove last week. But last week he drove less than 20 miles, less than m, right? So last week he actually drove less miles. So if this week is m and last week was 20 miles less, right? So here they're kind of playing with us with the word because the word they gave us was more, but they're talking about 20 miles more this week than last week. So we have to work backwards. Last week he drove less miles. So if m is the amount of miles this week, last week is going to have to be m, whatever m is, minus 20. Let's make sure we understand that. Okay. So, for example, let's say that this week he drove 5 miles. Well, no, let's just say 50 miles. This week he drove 50 miles. And then it says that he drove 20 miles more this week than last week, right? So if this week is 50, and we're just making this an example. If this week is 50, then last week's got to be less than 50 because this week he drove 20 miles more than last week. So 50 minus 20 would be last week, which would give us 30, right? So last week would be 30 miles. And that makes sense because this week is 20 miles more than 30. It's 50. So that makes sense. So what he drove this week and what he drove last week, added together, put together, combined, gives us the total number of miles he drove. So maybe we should put a dot right here and get rid of this word. This week should not be there. Okay, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. So we're going to put these two together. We have to combine them, this week and last week, and that's going to give us a total. So there's my equation. M plus m minus 20 equals 110. Now if I want to simplify this equation, and I'm not going to, well, I am. It was just an example, so I'm going to erase this right here. And I want to simplify it. I want to make it a little bit better. I'm going to combine the like terms. For example, here's an m and here's an m. Both of them are the same m's, right? So m plus m, that gives me 2 m's minus 20, and that's going to be equal to 110. And that is my final equation that I have to draw. You can actually leave it like this if you want to, but this would be a better way, a much better way of doing that problem. All right, let's look at the next one. Kelvin exercised 120 minutes each day for 18 days each month. What is X, the total number of hours Kelvin exercised last month? Formulate an equation for the problem situation. Okay, so let's highlight the important information here. I think I saw a word total. Here's the word total. And the word total is talking about the total number of hours, right? That Kelvin exercised. And that is X. So I already know that X is going to be all by itself on one side of that equal sign. Because remember, we're always going to start with an equal sign if we have an equation. And on one side of that equal sign, we're going to have the total. And the total in this case is the X. So we don't know the total amount of hours. But we do know that he exercised 120 minutes each day for 18 days. Okay? So that's what we need to know. Each day is 120 minutes, and he did that for 18 days. Now, when they tell us this information each month right here, that's extra information because they don't tell us how many months he did that for. They just told us he did it for 18 days. Now, if they would have said for 18 days each month for a year, then we have to convert that to 12 months, and then we will have to multiply by 12 so that we can get our answer. But here, all they asked us was 120 minutes each day and 18 days. So this right here we can scratch off because that's extra information. So 120 minutes That's 1 day. But he did that for 18 days. So I could add 120 plus 120 plus 120 plus 120 plus 120, 18 days, 18 times. But instead of doing that, we have something called multiplication, which is the same thing as repeated addition. So I can multiply this times 18 and I get the same amount. So 120 times 18, that's going to give me my x. And that is my equation. I'm finished. Okay, let's do the next one. Martha earned $30 babysitting. If she charges $20 per hour, what is x? The number of hours she spent babysitting. Okay, now in this case, they don't give us the word total, but we do need to find an equation. So we need an equal sign. And we know we have to have a total right here, right? But the word total does not appear on our problem. So we need to find what the total is without actually looking for the word total. It says Martha earned $30 babysitting. And she charges $20 per hour. What is x? The number of hours that she spent babysitting. So which one do you think is going to be the total? $30 or $20? Or is it going to be the number of hours? Well, we know it's not going to be the number of hours because that's x, right? We don't know that. But we do know that she earned a total of $30 babysitting. They don't say the word total, but they imply it. That's all the money she got. She got $30. She didn't get any more. She didn't get any less. She got a total of $30. So that is right there is going to be my total. So that's why I'm going to put $30 right here. And we know that she charges $20 per hour. Per hour is important right here because per means every 1 hour. And that means that we're going to have to multiply by the number of hours that she got, that she worked. Well, we know that x is the number of hours that she worked, that she spent babysitting. So if she spent 1 hour babysitting, it would be 20 times 1. And that would give us $20. But that's not the case here. If she spent 2 hours babysitting, it would be 20 times 2, which would give us $40. But that's still not the case here. She earned less than $40. So she babysat somewhere between 1 hour and 2 hours. Maybe she babysat an hour and 10 minutes or an hour and 15 minutes. Maybe an hour and 30 minutes. We don't know. But we do know that we'll have to multiply $20 times the number of hours. So the number of hours in this case is represented by the letter x. So I'm going to multiply that 20 times x. And that's my equation. Okay, hopefully this is coming together for you in your head a little bit more. We're going to be doing a lot more practice problems like this tomorrow in class. So that's why I wanted you to go ahead and fill this out tonight. Okay, so let's look at this next one. Freddy had 60 marbles and he found 4 more in his toy box. He gave half of his marbles to Stacy. This is a bad word. Get rid of that. He gave half of his marbles to Stacy. What is M? The amount of marbles Freddy gave Stacy. Formulate an equation for the problem situation. So we need an equation, so we need an equal sign. Do we know the total number of marbles that he had, that Freddy had? What's the total number of marbles? Well, we know he had 60 marbles. And we also know that he found 4 more. So the total would be 60 plus 4, right? We need to add these two together. So that's what we need to do. The total would be 60 plus 4. Now what we do know is that he gave half of his marbles to Stacy. And we want to know what is M, the amount of marble Freddy gave Stacy. So half of this is going to be M. Half of 64 is going to be M. So M cannot equal to 64. But if I take m and I multiply it times 2, I'm going to get 64. Okay, let's see how I come up with that. Let's say m was, and let's not worry about these numbers for right now. Let's say m, the number of the marbles that Freddy gave Stacy was 5 marbles. So if this is the number of marbles, if that was m, and I know that he had 10 marbles to begin with, he had a total of 10 marbles, and he gave Stacy half of those. I know half of it is 5, right? So if I multiply 2 times 5, that's going to give me that 10. So the same thing here. I don't know what m is, but whatever the value for m is, I'm going to multiply it times 2, and that's going to give me my total. So that's why I have m, and I'm going to multiply it times 2 so I can get 64. And that's it. That's the whole problem. Hopefully you got a little bit better now at writing these equations. Tomorrow we're going to do an activity, and then you're going to have homework about this, and we're going to do this for a couple of days so you can get better and better at it. Okay, well, thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.